the bike empire that tore a family apart. Every time cameras roll at Paul Jr. Designs, there's a rhythm to the shop. One man welding, another grinding, everyone moving with purpose. It's a work ethic forged over a decade of chaos. Because behind the polished paint jobs and the roaring engines is a story of a son who built an empire out of the wreckage of his own family. A family war. After turning Orange County choppers into a television phenomenon, Paul Teutul Jr. lost nearly everything in a bitter dispute with his own father, a man who eventually demanded $1.5 million from him and forced his younger brother to pick a side. Paul Jr. doesn't shy away from admitting how hard that period was. But looking back now, he says being pushed out was actually the best thing that ever happened to him. Becoming a father himself later taught him something about forgiveness he never expected to feel toward his own dad. Today, the man behind some of America's most iconic custom motorcycles is finally opening up about what really happened off camera and why he and his father haven't sat down for a holiday meal together in over 15 years. Growing up in the shop, while other kids in the mid-1980s were riding bikes and playing video games, young Paul Teutul Jr. was already spending his afternoons in the noise and heat of Orange County Iron Works. By age 12, he was sweeping metal shavings and fetching tools for grown welders. Even before that, he'd wander his father's job sites, gathering scraps of leftover metal and turning them into little sculptures. Early proof of an eye for design that would define his entire career. By 14, he was welding with a steadiness that impressed even the veteran fabricators around him. He wasn't just absorbing technique. He was starting to think like a builder. But the shop wasn't a gentle place to grow up. His father, Paul Teutul Sr., ran things with an iron hand. And if anything, he was tougher on his own son than on anyone else. A single mistake could mean getting chewed out in front of the entire crew. Senior believed the pressure would toughen him up. Junior has since said the television show only made that dynamic worse over the years. Their personalities were never going to match easily. Senior trusted brute force and old-school methods. Junior gravitated toward clean lines and precision. One summer, Junior reworked the design of a railing to make it sturdier and more refined. His father brushed it off at first, then quietly used a new design days later, without a word of credit. That small moment said everything about their relationship. Respect buried under constant friction. Learning the trade. Instead of grinding through algebra with his classmates, Paul Jr. enrolled in a vocational program that let him spend half his school day mastering metalwork. Welding, blueprint reading, understanding how stress moved through steel. One instructor said the teenager seemed to understand how metal wanted to bend before he even touched it. Junior stayed late after class, repeating the same welds and cuts until they felt effortless. He never needed a diploma to prove himself. He needed the work. By the time he came back to his father's shop after graduation, he wasn't the kid sweeping floors anymore. He was a legitimate fabricator, fluent in the language of professionals, and able to back it up with results. At 19, he was already running the railing division at Orange County Iron Works, a division that brought in nearly half the company's revenue. Skeptics assumed it was nepotism, but Junior earned the position by broadening the shop's design catalog and giving it a more modern identity. Customers paid more and waited longer just for a piece with his signature on it. He also had to earn the respect of a crew far older than him. Some of them were veterans who doubted a teenager could run anything, until his work spoke for itself. Still, something in him wanted more than staircases and railings. He wanted to build something that moved, from ironworks to choppers. Late at night, after long shifts, Junior began secretly sketching motorcycle designs in a notebook. Around the same time, his father was rediscovering his own love of bikes. What started as a casual father-son project turned into something bigger the moment Senior saw his son's sketches. They weren't just functional, they were art. That was the moment Senior decided they should build motorcycles as a real business, not a hobby. With roughly $175,000 pulled together from the family's ironworks company, they launched Orange County Choppers. The partnership wasn't equal from day one. Senior held 80% ownership, Junior 20%, but at the time, that detail hardly mattered. They had nothing but a freezing basement, a stack of tools, and a shared obsession. Their first build, nicknamed True Blue, took 4 months of late nights and constant welding to finish. When they debuted at Daytona in 1999, it turned heads. They weren't unknowns anymore, but the money problems were just beginning. Working out a cramped, unheated shop in 2000, tools broke down. Suppliers demanded payment up front, and cash disappeared fast. Junior regularly pulled 18-hour days, sleeping on a shop couch just to keep bills on schedule. Father and son argued constantly, not for cameras, but because survival depended on it. Getting discovered. In 2002, television producer Craig Piligian spotted a magazine feature on their bikes and reached out about a possible reality show centered on restoring junkyard motorcycles. Senior wasn't interested. He insisted they built everything from the ground up, not restorations. The deal nearly fell apart until Piligian returned with a different pitch. Filmed the real process, arguments included. Junior wanted no part of it. He worried cameras would turn their family dysfunction into a spectacle, and even wrote his father a lengthy letter warning that it would make them look ridiculous. The first contract offer was insulting. A few $1,000s per episode and blistering studio lights that interfered with their welding work. At one point, producers floated calling the show Family Friction. Junior nearly quit before it began, but they needed the income, so they signed. Overnight fame. When American Chopper premiered in March 2003, nobody anticipated how fast it would take off. Within 3 episodes, it was pulling in millions of viewers weekly. The shop turned into a tourist destination almost overnight. Merchandise sales exploded, and the network reportedly made tens of millions in the first season alone. They soon relocated into a massive new facility just to keep pace with demand. Senior's temper was the initial hook for viewers, but it was Junior's quiet, focused craftsmanship that kept people coming back. A now famous scene of him building a gas tank in total silence, with no dialogue or music, became one of the most replayed clips of the entire series. Welding school enrollment across the country reportedly spiked because of him. Fans started calling it the Paulie effect, the tribute bikes. Then came the build that defined the show, the Black Widow, a motorcycle featuring a spiderweb pattern gas tank and over 167 hours of detail work. When it was unveiled in New York, roughly 15,000 people showed up, and security struggled to hold back the crowd. Hundreds of thousands of scale model kits sold within months, cementing Orange County Choppers as a full-fledged brand rather than just a workshop. But the most emotionally significant build came a little later that year, a motorcycle honoring the firefighters lost on September 11th. Every detail carried meaning, right down to a real fragment of steel salvage from the World Trade Center wreckage, which Junior welded onto the frame himself. The redesigned frame had to support 343 individually hand-painted emblems, one for every firefighter who died. When the finished bike was later damaged in an accident, the New York Fire Department treated its recovery with the same care they'd give a fallen colleague. It remains on display in the company's museum today, having traveled to hundreds of memorial events, where visitors still leave notes and tributes beside it. Years later, in 2011, Junior built a second 9/11 tribute bike at the request of a board member of the National September 11th Memorial. The unveiling drew figures like former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and the reaction was overwhelming enough to draw national press coverage. One of the 2 bikes built for the occasion was raffled off, with proceeds going directly to the Memorial Fund. The engineer behind the artist. Away from the emotional builds, Junior was quietly becoming a technical innovator. Around 2012, he began using advanced surface modeling software to design complex curved bodywork, cutting what used to take 40-plus hours of manual work down to roughly 15. That technique became essential when he later built an electric motorcycle in partnership with Autodesk, and other custom shops eventually adopted similar methods. A few years after that, he developed a new approach to frame construction that made custom builds significantly lighter without sacrificing strength. He also taught himself to write G-code so he could operate CNC machinery directly, evolving from a designer who handed off technical work to someone who controlled the entire build process himself. The breaking point. The cracks that eventually split the family started forming quietly back in 2007, when Senior gave Junior a 20% ownership stake, but retained full control of the company. It looked fair on paper. Senior ran the business. Junior brought the creative vision, But as Junior's designs earned more attention than his father's traditional style, resentment built beneath the surface. By 2008, the shop had become a genuinely hostile environment. Fights were routine, not rare, and mostly centered on control. Junior wanted creative freedom. Senior wanted obedience. The show captured some of the tension, but plenty happened off camera, including outbursts that shook the entire crew. The final blow-up came in September 2008. Junior showed up late once again, and what should have been a warning escalated into a full screaming match in front of the whole team. When Junior argued the company couldn't function without him, Senior lost his temper completely. Junior, equally furious, threw a chair and a trash can across the office, kicked down a door, and stormed out. Senior chased after him and fired him on the spot. Lawsuits and a legal win. The fallout was immediate. The crew split in loyalty. Customers worried about the brand's future, and the network issued Junior a warning for walking off the show, prompting a brief return as a contractor before he left for good in early 2009. Senior then tried to force a full buyout of Junior's 20% stake, and when Junior refused to sell, Senior sued, first for a $500,000 buyout, then added another $1 million damages claim, even naming the company itself as a co-defendant. The entire case hinged on a poorly written contract clause about how to value Junior's shares. A New York court initially sided with Senior in 2010, ordering an outside appraisal. But on appeal that December, the ruling was reversed. The buyout clause was deemed too vague to enforce, and Junior kept his ownership stake. It was a major legal victory, though a one-year non-compete clause still barred him from building motorcycles, building his own name. Instead of waiting out the clock quietly, Junior pivoted into product design, partnering with Coleman on a camping grill redesign, and later launching a dog park project. He and his wife converted a room in their home into an office and founded Paul Jr., designs directly across the street from his father's shop. The moment his non-compete expired in April 2010, several of OC's most experienced crew members, including his own brother, walked out and joined him, a mass departure that devastated his father. Discovery Channel turned the fallout into a new series, Senior vs. Junior, which leaned hard into the family conflict for ratings. One critic dubbed it Tantrum TV, and the description wasn't far off. The drama consistently overshadowed the actual bike building. During this chaotic stretch, Junior met his future wife, Rachel Biso, on set. Her steady presence, along with a renewed sense of faith, gave him something stable amid the lawsuits and public feuding. Their 2010 wedding was large and elaborate, but Senior didn't attend. The lawsuits and lingering bitterness were still too raw. Fatherhood and forgiveness. In 2015, after years of trying, Junior and Rachel welcomed their son, Hudson. Becoming a father reshaped how Junior understood his own upbringing. For the first time, he began to grasp how painful it must have been for his father to watch him walk away. Around this period, he also leaned further into his faith, eventually speaking publicly about choices he and Rachel made in their relationship before marriage, and how that shift gave him the courage to eventually reach back out to his father, not just for himself, but for his son. A brief, genuine moment of reconciliation came in December 2011, when Junior's grandmother passed away. He called his father for the first time in nearly 2 years, offering condolences. It wasn't a long conversation, but something in his father's voice shifted, a flicker of grief and possibly regret beneath the usual anger. A business reunion, not a real one. The more publicized 2018 reunion wasn't driven by healing. It was a calculated move by producers hoping to capitalize on old drama, built around restoring a Yankees-themed motorcycle the pair had built years earlier. Behind the scenes, the two kept separate shooting schedules and contingency plans in case tempers flared again. 2 years later, a follow-up special billed as The Last Ride was meant to bring closure through a patriotic tribute bike. Instead, old patterns resurfaced almost immediately. Senior dismissed his son's ideas just as he always had. The few genuine moments happened only when cameras weren't rolling, as the two quietly worked side by side. When Senior later admitted publicly that he hadn't even wanted to do the special, and that it hadn't improved their relationship, fans reacted with outrage, and support for Junior trended online. Where they stand now, as of today, father and son live entirely separate lives. speaking only when contractual obligations require it. Junior has confirmed they haven't shared a holiday meal together in more than 15 years, not even after his son was born. Their businesses remain split. Senior still runs the original Orange County Choppers, while Junior has grown Paul Jr. Designs into a multi-million-dollar brand spanning apparel and licensing deals. Both men seem to have accepted that working together ultimately damaged their relationship beyond repair, and neither appears interested in trying again. Now, Junior is ready to tell the fuller story. In early 2025, he announced a new memoir, described by those close to the project as far more candid than his earlier book. Expected to detail incidents left out of the original series, including a near-physical altercation in 2008, and to address his father's struggles with alcoholism and the lasting toll it took on their family. Junior has said he no longer wants to hide the truth, hoping that being honest about it might help others working through similar family pain.